shakeout in the industry. It's got to happen.
Have we heard any numbers, guys? Do we know any of these numbers? Because a lot of these companies, when they are acquired, they have certain margins that they need to hit, and they think, oh, this guy's podcast is going to be X, and they're going to do. And very seldom does that ever work.
Well, and it just one of the other, just a couple points here to kind of close this up is like, I don't know the company that owns Action Network that well. I think they're a betting company, but we can use Penn as a good example
European gambling media.
Right. So the goal is not to drive traffic to Action Network. The goal is to drive traffic to the betting websites. They are, like Dad said, an ancillary component of that. But if you go on these websites, the only way that they make money, and it's clear, is by throwing you 3 or 4 different ways in which to access a betting website on each article. That's how they're making money. And if people are just going straight to DraftKings, straight to FanDuel, straight to whatever Better Collective is interested in, or whatever Penn has interests in, then you don't need, like from a major corporation standpoint, you don't need writers writing articles, because the goal on these websites is not necessarily to inform writers on how to, get a better edge, be better educated sports gamblers. It's to gamble on money. It's actually antithetical to a lot of these websites to educate the public on how to be a better sports gambler. That actually goes against what a lot of their models are. It's not the same for us, or for like some other websites, but it is, if your parent company is a gambling website, that is an important distinction to make. And so they have no problem laying off a ton of people, because it doesn't matter how many people go to Action Network. It matters how many people go from Action Network to the gambling websites. Now, again, we're on live radio. I don't know enough about Action Network. I'm not saying that this is their business model. This is their strategy. I don't know anything about Better Collective. This is all speculation, so don't get mad at me, Action Network. I mean, there's lots of reasons why.
But we know they didn't make the money. They didn't get the revenue into their gambling network that they thought to fund the writers. I mean, the vision is why they bought them. The vision is, okay, I'm interested in an obscure football game, right? Let's say a Big 12 game, right? BYU, Oklahoma State. So I get writers in Utah covering BYU on Action Network, and they think, okay, I'm going to get guys that are going to go to that game because they want to see what the writer's saying about the BYU game. And in that, as I go there, I'm not a gambler that per se, but as I go there, I'm reading the piece and I got 3 links: bet the game here, bet the game here, bet the game here, and I click on it and I sign up with that gambling network. I mean, that's what the revenue model was based on. That's why they paid $250 million for Action Network, and good thing the guy sold it out. But whatever revenue model they have, it didn't materialize. They put the money in, it didn't materialize.
Yeah.
So that's why now they have to downsize.
And we'll see. I think a couple things that, and then I know, Nate, we need to move on. And you're probably like, come on, guys. But this isn't, like we do this for a living kind of. So it is a conversation I think we're all passionate about. But one thing I will say is, so I think 2 things in the future will tell me the health of all this gambling apparatus in the economy. One is if one of these apps closes shop, like ESPN Bet in 5 years is like just closes, is just gone. Like, to me, and I use ESPN Bet because they're connected to Penn, but also because they're not so popular. Sorry, ESPN Bet. I wish you were more popular, whatever. You're not. So like that would be a major step to show me like, oh, okay, this is a competitive market that just doesn't have there's no ceiling for revenue. But then the other thing, and this could go either way. One, the federal government legalizes it across the country. I mean, that would increase a massive boom in this business. Or right. 2, we go the other way and it becomes, the federal government makes it harder to verify your age, which right now it's pretty easy. It's convenient. They do a face scan and all that stuff, but But if the government puts in a couple more steps to verify that you're 21, then I think we might see a cap as well, because it'll just be more difficult. Nate can talk about this. It used to be so hard in Nevada to verify your age. You had to go to the casino with all this documentation to verify that you're 21. Now you just scan your driver's license, they scan your face, and they say you're good to go. So, very different than it was back then.
Yeah, it's way different. And, I think that there is like a good point there. Like if this becomes like, federally like legal, across the board, like there will be probably another massive sort of influx of new bettors, because like the thing that's notable is 3 of probably the most affluent and like sort of largest states in the country, California, Texas, and Florida, it's not legal still. And so if this did ever, become federally legal, then there's going to be another explosion just from California, Texas, and Florida, which have yet to sort of legalize sports gambling.
It's also interesting when you mention those 3 large states that have now their state legislators have not allowed online wagering. It cuts across ideological lines. I mean, you can't get more different politically than Florida in California, right? DeSantis and Newsom. I mean, they're polar opposites in every possible way. But, DeSantis is not in favor of it. He doesn't think it's a good thing for Floridians. Abbott is not, as long as Abbott's there, you're not getting gambling in Texas. And the state legislator in California their problem is all of the Indian casinos that have tremendous power politically in California that don't want this because they see it as competition. Yeah. And if
they've had a problem in Florida with that as well, with the Seminole.
Yeah, I mean it's the same thing, but California is,
like I said,
massive.
Right. Like I said, this is a federal. This only happens on the federal level, and I think the federal government might legalize it at some point.
We'll see.
We'll see. Okay, so that was a long and sprawling conversation, deep dive into the world of sports gambling as we think about it here. Godzilla wins as people that probably spend a little bit too much of their free time wondering about these possibilities and where the market is going and in the industry.
Well, what's fun about this, and let me just say that I know we got to move on, but we're passionate about it. What's fun about this is we do all this stuff in our company, and Godzilla wins being one of them. We on such a tiny itty bitty scale. I mean, it is such a fraction of what everybody else does, but it's still the same business. And that's why I just find it fascinating, because that company does 250 million. We're not a $250 million company. Trust me. So you just do
it might not be a $250 million company.
Yeah. I mean, it's not 250 million, but it's fun because you're in the business, but it's tiny. But our team has made this work. I mean, Godzilla Wins is a successful company for us, but it's just interesting on the tiny scale that we have to see what the big guys are doing and how some of that fallout is. So I'm happy you brought that up, and I had fun. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, if anyone out there is listening and they want to buy this company for $240 million, I approve. I approve the sale.
Yeah. So, yeah, we'll just rubber stamp that right now. We'll do it live on the air. Okay, so we got some games to talk about. Back to our bread and butter. Jack, I know that you put this on it's near and dear to your heart. Ole Miss Rebels have to basically win out. They're still sort of on the outside looking in on the playoff, but it's doable. If they just run the table from here on out, they're 6-2 right now. They're 19th in the country. There is a universe where Ole Miss qualifies for the playoff, but it has to start today. They're running the table against Arkansas. Always tough to win in Fayetteville. Rebs are a 7.5-point favorite, 7-point favorite, depending on where you're getting your line at. I mean, my thought is that, probably like Lane Kiffin doesn't stub his toe in these games as much as other coaches do. That feels like the old Ole Miss, would go in and 100% lose this game as a touchdown favorite. Lane Kiffin tends to bring more stability and more consistency with his team. Are you thinking that they just roll here, hotty toddy?
I mean, I wish it were 6 and not 7.5. If we're just splitting hairs from like a point of view of the spread, I think you're right that Lane Kiffin does have a little bit more stability to the program. That's why they pay him lots of money. It's why every year they offer to renegotiate his contract. It's because the one thing that Ole Miss alumni want and need is stability. They want to be able to not lose 4 games when they're only supposed to lose 1 or 2. They already lost to Kentucky this year, so they're already in that sort of mode of like they stubbed their toe. Arkansas is always a difficult matchup for Ole Miss. These are 2 teams who are very close to each other. Fayetteville and Oxford just aren't that far away. They hate each other. They recruit against each other all the time. So you never know. I'm not going to take the 7.5. I think it's too much. I would take the money line for Ole Miss. I think they'll win. But if you're just asking me for my betting analysis, I'll take Arkansas. I mean, maybe Ole Miss blows them out, but this is always a kind of a difficult team. However, Arkansas does suck this year, and they don't ever cover the spread. So I could be wrong.
Jay, do you have any thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I think Arkansas is scrappy. I think 7.5 is too much. I'm with you, Jack. Ole Miss, for me, has been a disappointment this year. I expected more.
Yeah.
Lane Kiffin, he's got a lot of hype and a lot of money, and to my liking has not delivered to the level that I'd expect. There's a couple of games, and this is one of them that I circled early in the week that I like the dog here.
Yeah. All right. I kind of like Ole Miss. I don't know. I'm a big believer in Ole Miss. I still think there's, a reasonable path for them. And, I like Ole Miss. So I'll take
There
them.
is a reasonable path. I mean, they can sneak into the college football playoff.
Which would be that would be massive. That would be so much fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even though now you're an ASU fan. All right. So we're going to skip some games here that aren't on the run sheet. We're going to move ahead a little bit because some of our conversations have been lagging. I want to talk about the world's largest outdoor cocktail party, Florida-Georgia game. It's going to be fun. It's always exciting. It's always kind of a little bit weird as far as football games go. Some of that's just the neutral site in Jacksonville. Some of that's just, the nature of these 2 teams' familiarity with each other. And I guess I just look at it and I think I'm just not sure I think that both defenses are pretty decent-ish. I think Georgia's got a great defense. I think that, Carson Beck still hasn't shown me that he's like a solid number 1, first round draft pick type of quarterback for Georgia, despite sort of some of the draft analysts saying that Carson Beck's sort of a lock to go in the first round. He hasn't shown me enough with his arm in certain instances. So I halfway expect just kind of a clunker game where neither team sort of manages a ton of offense. But I guess I'll just throw it out to you guys what you're sort of expecting for what used to be a really big and meaningful game and now isn't as meaningful as Georgia sort of grows into a juggernaut and Florida just sort of stumbles around at 4-3, sort of trying to find their identity.
We have this in college football, right? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jeff.
So I was just going to say a couple things. I think this is the last time this will be in Jacksonville. But I think that's just because I don't think UG and Florida play each other or something. There's something. It's either that they don't play each other in the next couple of years or that they're not playing in Jacksonville for the next couple of years. So that's kind of interesting. I've been to the game in Jacksonville when I was in high school. It is the largest outdoor cocktail party. I mean, it's pretty huge. So that's kind of fun. I think Georgia here rolls. I'm not scared of the 15. They beat the bag out of Texas, and Texas is a decent team. They're way better than Florida. I just think Georgia, they've already lost. That's my thing with Georgia. They already lost their game. They're not losing 2 games. That's it. They've lost the game that they lose, and now it's like those old Saban teams. Now they run the table into the college football playoff. They're not going to lose 2 games in a row, and they're not even going to lose another game relatively close. If you're worried about Georgia, you should be worried about them against Ole Miss, not Florida, when they match up against Ole Miss here. So I think, the 15, 16.5 point spread, I'm going to take that. I'm going to take the big favorite. I'm expecting a blowout. I do think that both defenses are good. I think Nate, I just think it's going to be 32-7. I just don't think Florida's going to score on this team. And Georgia just had a bye week. So they're a little bit more well-rested.
This game is a clown show. I don't know. I think the cocktails party good. The game is going to be ridiculous. Jack is right about Georgia. They're not going to lose another game. And you look at how they dismantled Texas. I mean, that Texas came in a couple weeks ago. This was supposed to be the team. I bet him. I picked him. I'm like, look, who's going to beat him? And Alabama, put 28 points on Georgia in the first quarter, and Tuscaloosa. Maybe they're not that good. I mean, that was a complete dismantling. I mean, now all of a sudden, Florida is going to be competitive in Jacksonville. Blowout.
Jay,
I like Georgia here. It's interesting is when you're older, you get certain matchups and you're like, oh, this is a classic matchup. This is not a classic matchup anymore. Florida is kind of there. I can't even put Florida as a team in that scrappy category. I think Georgia nobody plays a schedule like the Bulldogs do. Their schedule's robust. Their coach Smart is the best now that Saban is stepped aside. The only concern, Nate, and you hit the nail on the head for me, is their quarterback. I've expected so much more out of this kid, and he just has not delivered. But they've got a dynamic defense. They've got a scoring defense. And who doesn't want to go to the largest cocktail party outside? I mean, I want to go.
Yeah, I mean, it looks fun. We're going to get to the game of the day here. This one is like a big game, right? So we had a couple kind of like, decent favorites. This one's big. This one is meaningful for college football playoff stuff. It's meaningful for everything. We got Penn State. They're coming in 7-0. Ohio State's 6-1. Penn State's at home. They're in Happy Valley. They're a 3-point underdog, however, in a game with sort of pretty massive implications as far as these things go. James Franklin historically does not play Ohio State well. We know that they've, it's basically the dry spell started before him. Part of the reason that he got hired was to try and beat Ohio State. Penn State's won this game once in the last 12 tries. That was in 2016. It's been a while. It's been a pretty long dry spell for Penn State, and they're hoping that this year they have it against an Ohio State team that's looked kind of vulnerable at times. They played some close games. Obviously they lost to Oregon in sort of a weird end of game scenario. My heart tells me that this may be James Franklin's moment to beat Ohio State and get to 8-0 and really make sort of a strong run towards the playoff, potentially winning the Big Ten. This feels like a year where they can do it. But I don't know. I mean, Ohio State is always tricky.
I'm with Nate here 100%. This is their year. I think
wow, from a Penn State hater. From a Penn State hater.
I'm not. I'm a Franklin hater. I don't like him. I don't like anything about him. I don't like how he recruits. I don't like how he coaches. I don't like the fact that he runs up scores, and I just don't like the guy. And I don't want anything to do with him. But I'm also in this business to not lose money. That's kind of the object of it. And so I'm going to bet Penn State today. This is my best bet in college football. I think they beat Ohio State. This team is really good. They're very well balanced. I mean, Franklin needed an offense. I mean, everybody knows what their defense is. Everybody knows who their linebackers are, right? Linebacker university. We all get that. Penn State, yay. He got an offense now. They move the football. They can throw the ball. And they've got a well-balanced offense. Ohio State comes in here. I tell you what, they're in big trouble. And if you go to Happy Valley they're going to have 107,000 people packed in this stadium. And Ohio State is a good team, but this is it for Penn State. I agree with Nate. Franklin's moment, Penn State's moment. This is the Saturday they deliver.
I like that you always say things like, insert coach, I don't want anything to do with him, as though James Franklin is calling you up, being like, John, can I get on your show? Do you want to go to Waffle House? And you're like, I don't want anything to do with this guy. James Franklin doesn't know who you are, Dad, and he doesn't want anything to do with you either. So
He should know.
put that one. We should put that one to bed.
His loss. It's his loss.
Yeah, his loss.
That's right, Jay.
Mr.
That's
Fun.
right. Tell him, Jay.
Yeah.
It's his
Now,
loss.
Come on.
And relentless.
Now, I'm also on the Penn State train. It has nothing to do with Penn State. I think if you're betting trends, you should take Ohio State. Ryan Day sucks. That's one of the reasons I'm on it. I never trust Ryan Day in these moments. But then the other thing is there's something weird happening in the Big Ten, and it's called Indiana, baby. And I think Indiana is going to win the Big Ten championship. I just think they're going to do it. I think this is going to be the weirdest year. Michigan and Ohio State look weak. You know, there's Oregon, of course, whatever. But I'm going with Indiana as like my pick, my long shot pick to win the Big Ten. So I think Penn State wins this game. I think Ohio State's kind of done. So I'll take the 3 points.
I think you got to take the points at home, but I don't have any confidence in either one of these teams. Penn State really hasn't played anyone of any significance. They beat Illinois. It was a close game. And I don't know about Ohio State. I really don't. It was a very entertaining game at Oregon. It was an extremely competitive game, and he got and basically got outcoached in the last minute of the game. Somebody's playing chess, somebody else is playing checkers. So I don't know. For me, I'm laying off this game. If I got to take it, if I got to pick, I'm going to take the points.
All right. John, you got a jet, but you want to tell us about Rosie's and take us out?
Well, I'm here in Salem, Virginia. Here's one thing. I tell you where I'm going tonight. I'm going to Rosie's after this rally. I'm here in Salem, Virginia. President Trump coming in for a rally. We're on the Trump bus here, thousands of people. But as soon as this thing's over and we get out, guess where I'm going? I'm going to Rosie's, baby, outside of Roanoke in Vinton. Hey, see you there. Rosie's, if you want to have fun, it is the best place. Now, I got to go without Ann. She's not here today. So, sorry, Ann, you're missing the best time ever. I know you really want to go, but you wouldn't come to Salem. So, hey, your loss, my gain. I'm going to Rosie's. I got the sports book. Got all these games are going to be on TV. I got that. I got the slot machine. And guess what? Biggest payouts, biggest jackpots. And you don't get any of the money. I'll put the money in. When I get the money out, guess where it goes? My pocket. You don't know anything about it. It's mine. Mine. So I'm going to have so much fun at Rosie's. Can't wait to go. All you got to do is go to rosiegaming.com. rosiesgaming.com. Have fun. Win money. Biggest jackpots. Biggest payouts. Why? Lowest state take. This is what I love. Lowest state takeout in the country. That's what the Republicans did. Very smart people here in Virginia. Lowest takeout means more money for us. Can't wait. rosiesgaming.com.
All right, we're going to take a little quick reset here at the top of the hour, refresh our coffee, and get ready to talk NFL. Don't change the dial. We'll be back in one short minute.
You're listening to Godzilla Wins on the John Fredericks Media Network. For a deeper dive without the jive, visit the website of winners, GodzillaWins.com. Let's get back to the show with the guys in the know, John, Jack, and Nate. It's Godzilla Wins on the John Fredericks Media Network.
Welcome back to hour 2 of Godzilla Wins Saturday Pick Show. We are moving from college and just general sports topics into the NFL only for the next hour. Still joined by Jay Delsing. You can catch him after this show, Golf with Jay Delsing. He'll be on right after us. Joined again by Jack Fredericks. And it looks like John is still here for the time being. Maybe he just forgot to turn off his camera. We'll see. All right, so this is a gambling show. We do give out some picks here. That happens from time to time. We want to remind you that this is for entertainment purposes only, though. And if you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. If you live in Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Louisiana, Maryland, Michigan, Nebraska, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, or Wyoming, you can call 1-800-327-5050 or visit gamblinghelpline-ma.org. If you're in Massachusetts, it's 877-GHOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. You can call 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona, 1-800-522-4700 in Kansas and New Hampshire, 888-789-7777, or just go to ccpg.org in Connecticut, 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa, or visit opgr.org if you're in Oregon. All right. The football season is well underway. We had Thursday night football, so week 9 has already started. The Jets finally showed just the tiniest, just the slightest glimmer, just a little tiny bit of life against the Texans that just looked like they were tired. I mean, CJ Stroud had a pretty pedestrian game. He goes 11 for 30 for 190 yards. Aaron Rodgers basically looks like a game manager. He completes 22 passes for a little over 200 yards, throws 3 touchdowns, though, doesn't turn the ball over. I mean, they did just enough to win. Some of this is, the score is not quite reflective of how well New York played, in that Malachi Corley dropped threw the ball down as he was running into the end zone on a running play, and got that touchdown called back after it bounced out of the end zone. So there was, some mental mistakes that are becoming indicative of just sort of Jets football, and I guess have been for a long time. It's hard to think about the Jets without thinking about just sort of horrifying mistakes and mental lapses. So some things never change. But Devontae Adams looks like he finally found himself in this offense. He had a great game. Breece Hall did enough, and the defense sort of finally took a step forward that we've been waiting for, I guess. What were your guys' takeaways of Thursday Night Football? I mean,
let's just boil this down. Okay, the Jets suck. I mean, that's just the bottom line. If you're a Jets fan, they're not going to even make the playoffs. This is the most underperforming team in football. I mean, they were very lucky to win this game. Great catch, great yay, whatever. All right, very lucky. They're going nowhere. The Jets are got to be the biggest disappointment. Rodgers, I don't know. They paid him all that money. You know what? I was a believer. Now I'm not. This is just not a good football team. I mean, you bet them. They're favorites. They're favorite. I mean, the whole thing is ridiculous. The whole team is ridiculous as far as I'm concerned. You got Rodgers doing cadence, and he's fighting with people, and they fire the coach, and now they just about win a game. Somebody steps, somebody makes a great catch. If you're a Jet fan, you might as well pack this season in, and you got big problems if you're a Jets fan. So I'm not betting them again. In fact, I'm fading them now every game going down the stretch. That's how I'm going to win. That's how I'm going to get back on top on that Godzilla wins pool or whatever pool you guys are in. That's why I'm going to bet against Jets, and I'm going to be on top where all you guys get eliminated, and I'm going to be the last man standing.
The reason you're at the bottom is because you keep picking the Jets because you can't quit them. So now you're just
right. Yes.
The reason you're in
Yes.
the cellars.
New Jersey roots run deep.
Yeah. You were like huge on the Jets early in the season. Now you're just mad at them.
I bet them to win the Super Bowl. That's like
so did I, John. So did I.
Yeah, but that's not a bad bet. They look like they'd be back this year. A tough week for New York. Like, I think the worst thing that can happen is the Yankees lose the World Series and then the Jets go turn around and win a game on Thursday Night Football to keep your hopes alive. I think you'd rather the Jets just got hosed in that game as well, but it didn't happen. I would say that it's Thursday Night Football, so I'm not going to draw any conclusions about Houston. Like Nate said, they looked tired. Sometimes these good teams on Thursday night just suck. I still think the Texans are pretty good, and I think they have a shot to really make some noise in the playoffs. But this was not a good loss for them. They looked pretty bad, pretty anemic. I don't think this says anything about the Texans. I don't really think it says much about the Jets, but maybe the Jets rip off a couple wins and end up at 500. The game,
but they got bigger, Jack. They got bigger problems because where they going with Rodgers now? And they have no quarterback. And I tell you, the other thing
but nobody has a quarterback. How many teams actually have a quarterback right now?
Well, you got three number one quarterback picks now on the bench, right? Our guy in Tennessee
That's what I'm
is a
saying.
disaster. That guy just needs to go away and sell mayonnaise. And then what they benched Bryce Young in Carolina, number 1 pick. Now they benched AJ 47, whatever his name is, in Indy. He's on the bench for some guy that's 52 years old. I mean, what a sad sack of quarterback picks. I mean, two guys benched, the other guy selling mayonnaise aftershave. I mean, like, what planet am I on?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Nobody has a quarterback. I'm not sure, like, being like, oh, well, we don't have an option at number 1 really makes for much of a compelling argument. Gardner Minshew is the starting quarterback in Las Vegas. Like, we're just in a situation where something's happening between high school and the NFL where they're just not developing into NFL quarterbacks, and that could be all sorts of things. But right now, we don't have a ton of talent. Maybe we will when Arch Manning enters. And everything else, but there's just not that many quarterbacks right
there's
now
Jalen Daniels
that are any good. Yeah, Jaden Daniels is great. I like Caleb Williams. I think he'll be fine.
But I think you look around the league and you think we have there are probably 3 teams that look at their roster and think our quarterback can just carry us through anything, and it's Lamar Jackson,
Pat Mahomes,
Allen, and Mahomes. That's it.
What about Purdy? People love Purdy.
Not Purdy. Not Purdy. Purdy's really shown his worth since they've had some injuries. He's not as good as without all these guys around him, and that's been proven out through his stats.
What about Stafford?
I'm saying you have 3 guys that can elevate a team, just regardless of roster. And I don't think that you look at Stafford and think we could just put him anywhere and he's successful.
What about Danny Dimes?
Stafford wasn't successful in Detroit with good teams, with good receivers.
What about CJ Stroud?
No.
I
mean, he played
terrible. We're talking about different levels, guys. We're talking about different levels.
Yeah, I'm talking about at the highest level.
Yeah, what about Trevor Lawrence? Kirk Cousins.
What did you just throw names out?
Now you're just mocking.
Baker Mayfield.
Jack's just throwing out names.
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins.
The other quarterback, Shaq?
I'm just trying to list all the Geno Smith. You don't think Geno Smith can lead his team to the promised land?
No. He can't lead his team to a coffee shop. Forget Geno Smith. I know you love him. Forget
Jordan Love.
Hey.
Jordan Love's got a lot of potential.
He might be in the discussion.
Maybe.
But you're right. I mean, we're not getting the quarterbacks. I mean, you look at what is this, 24? I guess it's a 23 draft class. I mean, three of the first quarterbacks that were picked are now on the bench, right? 2 of them in the first round, 1 in the second round. I mean, the only guy that's made it is the guy Stroud, and Indy took a shot. I mean, that thing didn't play out for them. It certainly didn't play out for Tennessee. That's a horror show. And Bryce Young, I mean, they don't even want to trade. Nobody even wants to get the guy in a trade. I mean, that's sad. So you're right. I mean, who you turn on the games now? I'm flipping the channels, on my NFL thing here on the bus. Here's who I'm watching: Gordon Minshew, turn it off. Joe Flacco, turn it off. Geno Smith, turn it off. Will Levis, turn it off. Mason Rudolph, turn it off. Like, let me get to a game with a quarterback. Dak Prescott, turn it off. There's nobody there. Oh, Purdy, yay. I mean, come on. Yeah, it's Mahomes, and that's it. Mahomes and the guy on the Bills, and, Lamar. You got 3 guys. That's it.
I mean, I think that's how I view the NFL. I think that, anybody would want one of those 3 guys on their team, but I'm not sure, and I think would probably trade their quarterback for them. And I just don't know if there's any other, quarterbacks that, people would just be, the Chiefs aren't trading Mahomes and being like, oh, Jaden Daniels has a great future. You know what I mean? Like, stick with Mahomes.
But guys, we've never had more than 3 elite quarterbacks in the league ever. We always have the top players that are studs, and then we have next levels down, right? I mean, with Brady, who was great along with Brady?
Yeah.
I mean,
Big Ben.
Big
Romo.
Big Ben's a stud, and Romo was serviceable. But I mean, we talked about this on the shows before. It's incredibly difficult to come from college and come into the NFL. And I think Jack made a good point. I think Jordan Love's got a chance to elevate himself into this conversation at one point in time, but it's because of the way that Green Bay grooms them. I mean, they give them time to try to come in. Here's another thing to think about, guys. You're 23 years old. You just got out of college, and you're going to go in there and command the respect of all these grown men in an NFL huddle. Come on, man. You gotta perform. You gotta have big cojones, and you got to put it on the line and deliver. And it's not easy. And you're talking about look at how difficult it is to win in the NFL, man. And something is wrong with the Jets. Yes, something is just missing, John, in that team. They figure out ways to do the dumbest things. They supposedly had a great defense. They couldn't get Reddick signed. Now there's just something missing in those great teams, and it's probably I, me, my. I think they all give it. The only thing they give a dang about is themselves.
Yeah, and I think like the development of quarterbacks is like sort of interesting, like as it plays out around the league. John talked about it a little bit, and I just sort of had some thoughts on it, especially after last weekend. It's like you see these different schools of thought for how to develop them. Obviously, the Packers had an extremely patient approach with Jordan Love, and that's worked out. But then you get like Bryce Young in Carolina, where they turned him into sort of like just a terrified game manager, where he's like almost afraid to throw the ball across the line of scrimmage. And then you get like the opposite, where it was like Indy was just like, okay, we're just going to roll with what Anthony Richardson is good at, which is just launching the ball as far as he can down the field and nothing else. And then you get a stat line like he had in the first half last week, where he was 2 for 18 for 81 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Which is just like the most hilarious stat line for one half of football I've like ever seen.
He'd fit right into the Titans, man. He'd be a perfect fit for them. They should trade for him now. But like you're right. I mean, the lack of exciting quarterback play, I think, is what this season right now has told you. But it's an interesting point you brought up about the Packers. You know, they've always developed their quarterbacks. Rodgers sat on the bench, right, behind Favre for 2-3 seasons. Love sat on the bench behind Rodgers. You could even go back further than that, where Favre sat on the bench. Remember, Favre sat on the bench for three seasons, right? In fact, he was drafted by the Falcons by Glanville that traded him away. So the Packers have always been patient. They get a quarterback, they're patient. A lot of these other teams are not. They throw him right out there, and then they get all this trouble. So,
guys, the college programs are no longer developing quarterbacks. All they're caring about is winning. So they're getting these kids. They're great athletes, but they're not developing the quarterbacks for the next level. And that has been up for the great majority of the time been the natural progression. These kids go to a college program. They learn how to play in a system. And hell, half the systems are different from what they play in college to the NFL game.
Yeah, I mean, Favre had a drinking problem, though. I don't know if that's the greatest example of like someone sitting on the bench. I mean, he was kind of an alcoholic when he was in Atlanta. He's also a morally bankrupt human being. So I would have sat him on the bench for 3,000 years. Let's move on.
Yeah. All right. So sort of like, I guess like a natural segue as we talk about sort of issues with some of these teams as this conversation has sort of evolved is to like, and Jack and I sort of disagree on this in some ways where it feels like there's a lack of parity in the NFL. I think for some people, like they're just teams that are so clearly bad that they're incapable of winning a game right now. And that, you know, has been the case in the NFL where there's 1 or 2 teams, but now it's like there's maybe 5 or 6 where they're just like, you just write an L next to them. The Titans kind of feel like one of those teams. The Patriots, even though they've won a couple of games, kind of feel like one of those teams.
Panthers
walk over. The Panthers, yeah, definitely the Panthers. You know, they're just teams that you just look at them and you just think like, there's no hope. We thought the Browns were one of those teams until Jameis Winston sort of reinvigorated the team, and then they beat the Ravens last week. Is there a lack of parity in the NFL now, or you know, is this just the normal? You know, there's 2 bad teams and then everyone else has a shot on any given Sunday.
No, I think there's a huge lack of parity this year in football, and I think a lot of that has to do just with the eye test. I mean, I don't know statistically if that's the best like argument. I can't pull up a bunch of numbers that say oh, look at the parity statistically in 2015 as opposed to 2024. I wouldn't do that. But what I can do is I can just watch the games and see that some of these teams are just awful. I mean, they're just awful. And there's a really, you always have, like we just talked about, 3 or 4 teams that are cream of the crop. They're going to win 14 games. They're going to win 13 games. They figure it out for the year. This year, I feel like we have a bunch of teams that are pretty good, 10, 11, 12 win teams, but then a lot of teams that I'd be surprised if they win 3 games. They're just bad. The Titans being one of them, the Patriots, et cetera. There's a lot of teams like that. I actually don't think there's as much parity right now in the league, and I think that has to do with quarterback play. That is how you win games. There are no good quarterbacks, like we just talked about. I hate to beat that horse to a pulp, but that's how you win football games. It's just the only way. It's the most important position on the field. It's one of the most important jobs in sports, maybe the most important job in sports. If you're going to be successful, you need a quarterback. You cannot win 15 games with Daniel Jones. You cannot win 15 games with, Andy Dalton, right? Gardner Minshew. Not to pick on Gardner Minshew. I actually like Gardner Minshew, but there's a lot of these guys who I don't even know who the Patriots quarterback is, to be honest with you. That's how
Jacoby Brissett have been splitting it.
Right. That's how irrelevant they are. Like Jacoby Brissett's still there. So you have to have a quarterback who's useful. Kirk Cousins is serviceable. Justin Herbert is serviceable. Geno Smith, et cetera. There's a lot of quarterbacks that you can get to 11 or 12 wins. But I don't think there's a lot of parity. I don't know what you guys think. You probably watch more football than I do. I'm in school a lot, so I don't get to watch a lot of football on Sundays. But I don't see a lot of parity right now.
Well, listen, it's you've got your elite teams right now, and you got a lot of bad teams, and I know we're going to get to some of these games, but the great thing about the NFL, except if you have a complete dumpster fire going on like Tennessee does, the great thing about the NFL is you can go from worst to first pretty fast with good draft picks. You can't do that in MLB. You can't really do that in basketball. You can do it though in the football because of the draft situation and also because of the salary cap. So there's a built-in parity there that I think was one of the most brilliant things the NFL union ever did, because a rising tide lifts all boats, and that's what basically they've created. So, but if you're a dumpster fire like Tennessee, where, the whole roster's a catastrophe. There's nothing you're going to do. There's not a rebuild here. There is just burn the thing down and start over from scratch. But a lot of these teams, they can make a couple of moves and be different. But a lot of games on, guys. So looking forward to that.
One quarterback we didn't mention was Jared Goff, who's having a
great year.
I got to tell you, I'm loving watching the Lions, and they're an incredibly fun team to watch. And I don't know if he's a perfect quarterback for that system or what, because when he was out in LA and with Jeff Fisher, that whole debacle, he looked so pedestrian. He looked like he shouldn't be in the league. So they're fun to watch.
Yeah, for my money, I don't think that there's, I think that to sort of continue to beat on this, like a lot of it does just kind of come down to the spark provided by one player, often at quarterback, but we've seen how quickly it can turn just sort of a lifeless team into a real team if they just can get sometimes just competent play, right? Like we saw Andy Dalton come in after they benched Bryce Young and provide at least a one-game spark that Carolina could win at least one game this season. The Browns looked dead in the water, and then Jameis sort of just, Jameis isn't going to set the world on fire with his play, but there's just something about the team that they just looked more energized, just sort of broadly by having him, because at least they knew that he would try. I think that there's like the sense in football teams where it's so much of a it's so physically taxing on them. And it's such a grind just sort of to be healthy enough and to get your mind in a place where I could suffer a catastrophic injury at any moment, that there has to be some sort of belief for these guys that it's worth putting your body on the line for this. And when you get teams like the Browns with Jameis, I feel like when Deshaun Watson was there, that a lot of the team just kind of thought like, what am I trying to do?
Well, the
like,
guy's got too many issues. This is where personality and character comes in. I'm not going to get into a Watson. Wish him the best. I think he's done. But look, if you follow football, you always knew that Jameis Watson's got he's got the talent. Winston. He's got the talent. He's always had the talent. It was in Florida State he had the talent. I think he's been revitalized now. He's got another opportunity to make his mark with a pretty good football team that was underperforming. And you're right. If you watch that game like I did last week, because everybody was all over the Ravens. I mean, he brought energy, he brought leadership, he brought determination, and I think he really made a difference. He made it the locker room in there. The team lost confidence in their leader. They lost confidence in Deshaun Watson, and so it's tough to play when you don't believe in your leader. Any organization operates that way. He's the leader. They lost confidence in him. They all played under their ability, and now I think. We don't know. We don't know. Is this team any good? We don't know. This is a very dangerous team now, I think, the Browns. Dangerous because we
always knew the defense would be good in Cleveland.
Right.
But we just didn't know if they were going to have enough offense. But it seems like everyone just kind of came to life a little bit, even on the defensive side of the ball. Like they played a lot better. I mean, it's hard to beat Lamar Jackson and the Ravens.
You were on those guys last week.
I was the only person on this panel that was like, Browns.
Guys, look what happened in Baltimore. Anthony Richardson takes himself out of the game. I've never seen it in any sport ever, unless you're hurt. You want to talk about ripping the heart out and soul out of the rest of the squad? John, are you kidding me? Could you imagine your pitcher saying, you know what, I need a 20. I got to take a timeout. You've got to be kidding me. This kid has lost all face in that organization.
I think he's done. I don't think you can say that. I don't think, Nate, you can do what he did and remain on an NFL roster. Like, take me out. I suck. I mean, look, when you're a pitcher and the manager goes out there, two things happen. They've either made their mind up, they're going to the other guy, right? I mean, it's done. Or they say, look, tell me what's going on. Or here's what you got to do. Or you got to get over the top on this slider. And you're fighting to stay in the game, right? I've had coaches come in. I'm fighting to stay in the game. Hey, give me this batter, coach. Give me this batter. I got this. Give me this.
Yeah.
Give me that. Don't let me give you that ball. Give me this batter. No,
right.
You're out. Fine. But to say, you know what? I'm just not feeling it.
I'm tired and I need a breather.
I'm tired. I didn't get enough sleep.
What in the hell?
The hell was that about?
Yeah. I mean, it's just a weird scenario. And it's like, honestly, if you're Anthony Richardson, like this is a good time not to practice like radical honesty. Just say that you got hurt and you needed you got like a Charlie horse or something on the last play and you just needed like a quick few minutes to
your contact is
anything. Just say anything other than like I was tired and then you're good to go. But like when you just say like, I just needed a breather because I ran too much the previous two plays, like give me a break. Like then it's
you're not in shape. So you're not coming prepared. You're not in shape. We got guys that are breaking their arms and legs and appendages to try to win this game, but you're tired?
Right, yeah. The offensive linemen weren't tapping their helmets to come out after blocking for him while he just scrambled around like an idiot for the previous two plays. So yeah, I mean, I get that for sure. Let's break down some games here. I guess before we break down some games, I do want to plug our socials a little bit. Follow us at Godzilla Wins Big if you're on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. We're on all of them. Godzilla Wins Big, same handle across all platforms. We're trying to build it up. You can access our best bets segment on all of those platforms. We're going to be recording that right after the show where we each give you our best games of the weekend, things that we're looking forward to. So please be sure and check that out. All right.
Native path, John. Native path.
I'll tell you what,
quick.
Jay,
I'm telling you.
Jay, did you take your native path today? Did you take your collagen? I did. See this cup of coffee here, right? I put 2 scoops right in this cup of coffee. I put my cream in it. I figured the frother out finally. This is the greatest thing that I've ever done, Jay. This thing, I mean, I'm looking
That's
better.
awesome.
That's what people say. I go outside the bus. They want to get a picture with me. Everybody says, "Oh, you're looking better. What's going on?" It's my collagen, baby. Everybody on my team is using this collagen, including Jay. And it takes about 2 weeks, and you just simply got to feel better. Your joints feel better. You get a little glow. Jay, I don't know what it is about this thing. I mean, Nate, maybe you should be taking it. I don't know. You should go to get it. You might give it a shot. GetNativePath.com.
Nate looks pretty damn good, John. Look at Nate. Looks pretty damn
he's
good.
looking good, but he needs some collagen. Get a little glow there, especially because he's getting married and all that stuff, right? He's got rings going around. You got to stay healthy, dude. You want to go to GetNativePath.com/collagen. I got a lot of women in my company, Jay. I get these chicks. They tell me what to do all day. I get bossed around by women the entire week. I mean, it's like ridiculous. They're all bossing me around. They're all taking collagen. They all feel great. They look fabulous. And they're bossing me around. I got so much estrogen in this company. This is why I love Godzilla Wins. No chicks. It's like the best thing ever. I need a break, right? But you got to get your collagen. Go to nativepath.com. And then I got to have Ann telling me she's kicking my ass on the football pole. So I got that going on. I mean, be me for a second. You got to take your collagen. GetNativePath.com/Godzilla, as low as $21. Take this 2 weeks. You're going to feel better. Jay, you've been taking it. What do you think?
100%. I tell people on my show, buy it. If you don't like it, I'll Venmo you. Send me the product. I'll Venmo it to you. I love the stuff. My joints have improved so much. I'm still taking the krill oil, which has helped me a ton. So, and I mean, look at Nate. This is a before and after shot. Look on the right side of the screen. You got John and I. The left side, you. You better get your ass on that collagen, man. Let's go.
All right. Okay. So let's break down some games. Back to our bread and butter. I guess we'll just lead off with a team that used to be near and dear to my heart, but I drift further away from them and into just self-loathing every time I think about them now. The Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys stink. They're 3-4. They're 3-point underdogs to the Atlanta Falcons. Dallas doesn't look like they're doing pretty much anything well right now. They had a chance to sort of inject some life into this season, last week, obviously. And Dak Prescott, again, played horrible. He did not look comfortable. They were coming off a bye week, no excuses in terms of preparation, and he just laid an egg. The defense, still can't get healthy. Micah Parsons missed another game. I thought maybe he was going to play last week. He didn't. Now he's a question mark again this week. Deron Bland, same thing. They're struggling. Atlanta's pretty decent. What are we looking for, as it pertains to betting in this game?
Right now, you just can't bet Dallas. I mean, it's very simple.
How can you?
You just can't bet them. Bet them based on what? Dak looks horrible. Parsons is out. And look, there was a week here or there where I thought Atlanta didn't play very well, but I like the Dirty Birds here at home. The thing about Kirk Cousins, I love Kirk Cousins. He doesn't lose games. Maybe he doesn't win a game, all the games. He's not going to lose a game. Guy's the best football NFL quarterback manager in the history. Never throws the key interception, never has the key fumble, never has a stupid play. So, yeah, he's not going to light up the scoreboard. He's not Patrick Mahomes. But this is a game in Atlanta at home against, a under 500 team. They need to win. So I like the Birds here.
Yeah, and I mean, to speak to Cousins a little bit, he's thrown 10 touchdowns and 1 interception from a clean pocket this season. And Dallas can't generate any sort of pass rush without Micah Parsons on the field. So, I mean, this could be a long day for their defense if they can't get to Kirk Cousins. Jack?
Yeah, I mean, statistically, Patrick Mahomes has not had a great year this year either, to be honest with you. The refs keep bailing the Chiefs out. That's why they keep winning, really. As far as this game goes, I'll lay the 3 with Atlanta. I think that's the spread. I like Dad's analysis that Kirk Cousins doesn't lose games. He doesn't necessarily win games, but he doesn't lose them for you. Kirk Cousins does have that sort of Mahomes last-minute flair where he'll get you the touchdown at the end. And the Falcons have a lot of offensive weapons. So I just think this is one of those situations where the Cowboys are doing this, going down, and the Falcons are peaking. And so it's kind of like ships in the night passing, going at different directions. I'd probably play this up to 6 if I was really feeling confident. This probably is a blowout, but then you never know with the Cowboys because they do this. They go 3-4 and then they beat someone by 50 points. So it can be tricky, but I'll lay the 3 with the Falcons. They look pretty good this year, and they're locked into a big division race. One thing about the Falcons, though, is that they are not beating teams outside of their division. They're like undefeated in the division, but that Seattle game, a couple others, they haven't looked so good. So one thing to keep in mind, but I'll still lay the points.
Nate, what has happened to Dallas's offensive line? This was supposed to be the dominant offensive line in the NFL. They can't run the ball. They can't. I don't know if Dak, I don't know. I am not a Jerry Jones fan. He's in charge of personnel. It looks like a weak roster to me. I obviously with Micah out, the defense is going to suffer. There's absolutely no pass rush. It's a snooze fest. I'm not a huge Atlanta Falcon fan, but if I got to play this game, I got to take them.
I mean, yeah, and I think that some of that is just, this is what the NFL looks like. And we talked about salary cap. When you pay Dak a ton of money, when you got to pay CeeDee Lamb a ton of money, when you got to pay, getting ready to pay Micah Parsons a ton of money, that's just like you just spent everything you got. I mean, there are going to be holes in the roster when you're paying guys, gigantic contracts like they deserve. And the offensive line was a relative strength for a long time. And then, age happens. Guys just get older. They're not as good. You spend too much money other places. You can't afford to keep certain guys. That's happened for them. And also, to have a running game, you can do it with a mediocre offensive line and good running backs. You can do it with a great offensive line and mediocre running backs. What you cannot do to generate a good rushing game is have horrible running backs and a mediocre offensive line. That's sort of what they have right now.
Yeah.
And that's really sort of their problem. I mean, it's just unbelievable. It's almost criminal mismanagement that they couldn't find anyone to draft last year, a running back, and they spent all these draft picks on other players when running back was such a gaping hole. And you can find so much talent late in a draft at running back just because of the devaluation of the position, and for them to just totally pass on it and bring Zeke back for his age 30 season is just
like minus a 3. Actually, it just went up to 3.5.
It also says, did you hear that Micah and the other guy did not pick Dak in the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL? They did not pick their own quarterback as a top. That says it all. That team's a mess.
The guy that you practice against, you're like, I don't know.
I don't know. He's not that good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think, from a betting perspective, I think that, Bijan Robinson will probably go berserk against this defense. That would probably be my angle for this game. I don't know why I can't bet against the Cowboys right now, but yeah, that's sort of where I would go, I guess. Betting wise, is Bijan Robinson over 70 rushing yards looks pretty ripe for the picking against this team that has really struggled to defend the run. All right, we got Dolphins Bills AFC East matchup. Tua's back. Tua survived his first game back. He looked okay at times. Offense as a whole looked a lot better. They're 6-point underdogs. They're going up to Buffalo. Always tricky for Miami teams to go up to Buffalo. It's not that cold yet, but moving that direction soon. Bills have not done a lot wrong lately. All they do is just keep winning games, put a team in front of them, and they're going to beat them right now. That's sort of just what it looks like for the Bills. This feels a little bit like a moment where, something weird could happen. I mean, it wouldn't shock me if Miami does beat them here, just because sometimes that happens with the Bills. But what are you guys looking for in this game?
I like the Bills minus 6.5 at home. Miami hasn't shown me anything. I'm happy Tua's back. I hope he stays safe. It's just not that good of a football team. They have a lot of speed. They don't have the meat up front. And I think Buffalo manhandles them in this game and wins easy. So I like the Bills.
I like the over. I don't necessarily love the 6.5. Although, Nate, who's the teaser king? Is that Jay? Jay's the teaser king. We're in teaser area with that 6.5. You can maybe tease this down with another game and have some fun with that one. I don't like the 6.5. I don't know why. I just sometimes Buffalo just lays an egg in games like this. But they have a pretty good offense, and Miami stinks on defense, so Miami can score as well. So I think 47.5 is like really low for this total for these two teams. So I'm just going to take the over and play that.
Miami doesn't win in Buffalo. They just don't win in Buffalo. What did I see? The last time they won in Buffalo was like 2018 or something like that. I'm John, I don't know how you feel about this, but Tua playing again just makes me cringe, man. I feel like, he could accidentally hit his head on the turf and be done. So, God, it's tough. I kind of like Buffalo here.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like, I guess I like Buffalo too, but I don't know. I feel like Tua, maybe we'll start to get himself together. Let's talk about, all right, here's a fun game. I don't know how this made the cut on our run sheet. It probably speaks to the state of the NFL and the fact that we haven't done this for a while. And I know that John loves to talk about them. Pats, Titans. Patriots are.
How did that get on here?
I don't know. We that one just stuck in. I guess
there aren't a lot of good games. There's not a lot of games in general this week. It's like a lot of teams have a bye week. So, I threw it on for old time's sake. Circa like in 2018 or something when both teams were relevant.
And in 2022 when we used to just do this for an hour, and then John would spend 40 minutes talking about the Titans, and we'd spend 20 minutes talking about all the other games.
Yeah, I love my team.
And then he would call us afterwards and say, "We didn't get to enough games.
Yeah,
like we need to talk about more games. We should speed it up." And it'd be like, "Well, Dad, maybe if you didn't spend 35 minutes talking about a team that's going to win 7 games, we could talk about some other more relevant games." So, go ahead and talk about it now, Dad.
Chiefs Bills, yeah.
Well, you got to put it on the run sheet. I mean, I wish we could win seven games. We're going to win 7 games. I mean, there's no way I'm going to lay 3.5 points with the Titans playing anybody, including Carolina. This team is so bad, guys. There's a fire sale here at the deadline. I mean, the defense has collapsed. A lot of these older players now are done. They just don't care. It's a very sad team to watch. It's sad to see. We had such a great roster. We had so many great players. It was such an exciting team. And to watch what's unfolding under my eyes right now, where you've got Mason Rudolph and, I don't know, Carl Pollard or whatever they got in there. I mean, it's just a sad state of affairs. And you look at their numbers in the second half of games. I mean, they've been outscored like 100-6. It's just in the second half. It's so bad. The whole roster is a catastrophe. And then, you see all of our star players, right? Derrick Henry's having a great year, and you got AJ Green. I mean, AJ, whatever his name is, you get him in Philadelphia. We got all the stars are doing good for other teams. They should take a billboard out in Nashville with Ryan Tannehill's picture on it that says, "Miss me yet." I mean, give me Tannehill back. It's a sad state of affairs. Cannot lay 3.5 on this team against anybody. So if I had to bet it, I'd bet the Pats.
Yeah.
Here's what I'll be doing during this game. You ready? I'm turning on TV. Just leafing through the newspaper.
Horrible.
This is not a game I'm going to be watching, and I don't care who wins. I shouldn't have put it on the run sheet. I got no pick here. They shouldn't have fired Vrabel. That was such a stupid idea.
I mean, yeah.
Well,
for me,
it's just one final thing. The Patriots, as bad as they are, they came back to win that game last week against the Jets. They had a minute and a half. They went right down and got that touchdown to win that game. So good for them. I mean, they showed something. I don't see it. I think they go into Nashville, win the whole game. Tennessee's done. They got so many issues there. I don't even want to think about it.
It's a funny game because there's quarterback issues on both sides, but like from like a handicapping perspective, it's almost like inconsequential, which almost never happens in the NFL. We've been talking about how important it is. It's like the difference between Drake May and Jacoby Brissett. Drake May obviously had a concussion last week, and they're still not sure. That's basically net neutral. Will Levis has had the shoulder injury. He looks like he's maybe getting ready to come back from that injury, but like Mason Rudolph's like basically net neutral. So like it's sort of like a weird instance where neither team is really sure which quarterback may start, but ultimately it doesn't really matter because they basically have two backup level guys competing for a starting job. So yeah, fun game. Jay, did you have any more thoughts on it?
No, it's a no player. How do you, if you're going to play it, you gotta take the points. I mean, Tennessee does not deserve to be favored over anyone, period. You can't count on them. They may win, they may cover. Who the hell's going to bet on them?
It's horrible.
It's
horrible.
It's terrible football.
Yeah.
All right, so we got another just riveting game that I'm sure across America people would be locked on their TV to watch. The Chicago Bears traveling to Glendale, Arizona to take on the Arizona Cardinals. Both teams are hovering right around 500. Chicago's 4-3, Arizona's 4-4. Chicago's obviously coming off a pretty horrific loss last week with the Hail Mary play that, should probably have never happened. It was just, just.
Did you see the Chicago defensive back just showing off in front of the crowd while the play is going on?
Yeah,
just perfect.
It was.
He's off my roster. If I have anything to do with the Chicago Bears, that guy is off my team.
Tough look for that defensive back. He has heard plenty about it on social media, and I'm sure from his coaches and teammates. In Arizona, they snuck past Miami, which is not easy to do. Traveling down to Miami, Tua's back, the offense looked competent like we talked about, and Arizona kind of snuck out another win. They've sort of specialized in either getting just the doors blown off of them like they did against Green Bay and against Washington, or they just sneak past in like just razor thin margins. They beat Miami by 1, they beat the Chargers by 2, and they beat the Niners by 1 in the
Nate,
last.
I love Arizona in this game. If you follow the Cardinals and you're betting football, this is a very tough team to figure out. But you start figuring out games you just feel they're going to win. They're at home. I mean, the Bears came off that horrible loss. Bears got issues. I mean, this Cardinals, they are an exciting football team. They're fun to watch. They run around and they got great receivers. They got offense. They play a little defense. They rush the quarterback. But this is one of those games where, look, they're not playing San Francisco. They're not playing, Baltimore. They're playing the Bears, who got issues. I love Arizona in this game. I think the Cardinals win, and I think this is going to be a fun game to watch. So I'm all in here with Kyler Murray and the Cardinals. Murray, I understand he's now watching some film. I think that's a good thing, but I love the Cardinals here, minus the 2.
Anybody else have thoughts?
Yeah, I'm with Arizona. I'm with Arizona on this game as well. I think that the -2 is not expensive enough for me to really feel nervous about the game, and I've liked what I've seen from Arizona this year so far. But that said, I've been bullish on Arizona before this year and have been burned. So I don't have a great read with them because I don't know what it is. It's like you get so pumped up about them on Saturday. You're just like, oh, Arizona, they're like pretty good these days. They can stay with the team, and then you lay the 2 and they lose by 7, and you're like, okay, that wasn't even close. So I mean, that does happen with Arizona sometimes. But I'll take the Cardinals.
Guys, we talked about parity, lack of parity. To me, this is where the parity in the NFL lies. You got the Bears, the Cardinals, the Rams, the Seahawks. You could even toss the Cowboys in there, where these guys win games randomly. I mean, they're impossible to try to figure out how the hell Arizona won last. And that game was fantastic to watch. It was incredibly entertaining. But if you're betting on it, you tear up your slip in 1 minute, the next minute you're trying to piece it back together. I don't know. I have no pick here.
No pick. All right. Speaking of parity,
Impassioned no pick.
Yeah.
Parity in the NFL. Don't look now, but the Denver Broncos are 5-3, winners of 4 of their last 5. The last couple coming in, pretty, convincing fashion. They beat Carolina easily. Everyone mostly does. They beat the hell out of the New Orleans Saints before that. They've looked like a relatively strong team, and the expectations were low in Denver. They're taking on the Ravens, which at times have looked like the most complete and best team in the NFL. However, they are also 5-3 entering this game. So 2 teams with identical 5-3 records. I think that, a lot of people had Ravens on the short list for Super Bowl contenders. I don't think many people had the Broncos on the short list for Super Bowl contenders, but here we are. Baltimore's a 9.5-point favorite.
This is, I don't want to get ahead of my skis here, but this is one of my best bets of the week. First of all, shout out to Sean Payton. I think what he did is he got the whole team My Pillows. They got to do something, right? They're all got My Pillows. I think he bought this. He went to Mike Lindell's site, mypillow.com, and he's like, holy crap, I can get My Pillows for $14.98. I can get it for the whole organization, right? A couple $1,000. I got a bajillion pills. Then he found out, well, he could only get 10. He's like, what do you mean I can only get 10? So then he went to like his GM and everybody else. He got everybody to buy 10 for $14.98. And now they're sleeping like babies. And that's why he's so successful. You got Christmas coming up. Guys, Mike Lindell's got the biggest sale in the history of My Pillow ever. $14.98 for a My Pillow. It's like 85% off. He's got truckloads of them. Guy runs a cash business, baby. He's got cash in, cash out, get it out the door. Let's go to mypillow.com/Godzilla. If you put in /Godzilla, good things happen to you. You will win your bets this weekend. Very lucky promo code. Just mypillow.com/Godzilla. Promo code Godzilla. MyPillow, $14.98, 85% off. Plus, you got Christmas coming, Jay. Got to buy your stuff for your daughter. Got it all coming up, baby. All right there. MyPillow's got the best deals ever.
The pillows are phenomenal, and take the Broncos, take the points. I got to tell you, the Ravens defense is shaky as hell. Whoever is the offensive coordinator, and we need Peter here to tell me because I know he's a Ravens hawk, why does he not run the ball? Holy cow, you got Derrick Henry, who's nobody can tackle and nobody can catch, but they don't do it. I love the Broncos here, plus 9.5.
I can't.
Yeah, give me the Broncos too. Plus 9.5.
I can't believe I'm getting 9.5.
They'll take them on the money line.
That's too much. Yeah, that's too much. Oh, hey, I love those types of money line. What's the money line? I like that a lot.
The money line is 360.
You know what, Nate? That's not a bad idea. But when the point spread is 9.5 and the money line is 360, that also tells you something. Like sometimes a point spread at 9.5, the money line will be plus 600. So this also tells you that Vegas maybe is trying to bait some of that money in for the Ravens or something. So we'll see here. But I like the money line too. Give me that.
Yeah. All right. We're all in lockstep on the Broncos, which is
terrifying.
It's dangerous territory when we're all in perfect agreement. I like it a lot better when I'm the lone dissenter, like I was for the Browns last week. That made me feel a lot more confident. Usually, when we're all on something, we're all wrong. All right. Detroit, Green Bay, an actual fun game to talk about. Big, obviously, sort of divisional game, natural rivals, as it were. Both of these teams have real, legitimate playoff aspirations and expectations. Detroit comes in looking excellent. The offense at this point just looks like they are toying with people at times. I mean, when they beat Dallas a couple of weeks ago, they were just trying to throw passes to offensive linemen to get touchdowns because they were just toying with Dallas so much. They've continued to look awesome. Packers look great too. They're 6-2. They've won 4 in a row. So a lot to like about both of these teams. Green Bay's a slight home underdog at plus 2.5, just under that field goal range. So maybe not a lot of value on Green Bay. You might want to wait for 3, but if you want to bet Detroit, now is probably the time at minus 2.5.
In the late great words of Jack's grandfather, Sam Fredericks, never bet against the Packers in Lambeau when you're getting points, ever. He's since passed, but that was one of his things. Don't bet against the Packers at Lambeau. Detroit just came out of 52-10 whitewashing of the hapless Titans. This is a game that everybody says, hey, how fantastic they are. They go to Green Bay. You're getting 3. Jordan Love. Green Bay is a solid football team. This is a big test for the Lions. I love the Packers here in the 3.
My grandfather was a lot of things. One of them was not a very good handicapper. So I'm not sure I would totally follow that advice.
He was horrible.
He was pretty bad. That was not one of his strengths. I'm going to take the over here. Both these teams can score. So just give me it's like 47.5. Again, it's kind of low. So I'll take that.
We're walking into uncharted territory. Jared Goff is a noted indoor football specialist. He plays his best in climate-controlled environments. This is unbelievably, this is Jared Goff's first game played outdoors this season.
That's
now
crazy.
The game's in. This is his first time playing outside with the sun on his face.
He's not going to have much weather to deal with, though. The weather's going to be really, really. We've had this weird, mild weather through the Midwest, so that may be. It's a great game, interesting game. I love what Jack said. I love the over.
All right. So that'll be a fun one. I think Detroit. I kind of lean that way just because I think there's value at this exact moment. But we'll see. All right. Colts Vikings Sunday night football game. Joe Flacco is going to be starting for the Colts. Anthony Richardson's hitting the bench for a little while to cool down. Minnesota looked like a great team, and then they lost 2 in a row, and now they look maybe more like what we thought they were, which was just kind of like a good but not excellent team. What are you guys looking for? Minnesota's a 5.5-point favorite. I think people don't know what to do with the Colts in terms of what kind of team they are. What are you guys making?
They're not a very good football team, and Minnesota did lose these 2 games. This is a must-win game for them at home on a Sunday night. Joe Flacco, whatever. I mean, the guy's 50 years old. Indianapolis has got a lot of issues with this team, both sides of the ball. Minnesota, remember, they were 5-0. They were playing great. They ran into two tough games. I like Minnesota here minus a 5.5 at home. Right to ship.
Colts are 7-1 against the spread this year. So they might suck.
That stat, Jack. You're right. I love it.
Yeah. They're 7-1 against the spread, and they might suck, but they cover the spread. And I think this is a situation in which they cover again. Flacco does bring some stability to this team. This will be one of those things where, they end up winning this game or something, and then they lose a whole bunch. But sometimes you get that little quarterback bump. I know he's 1,000 years old, but I'll just take the 7-1 ATS. That's a really good trend. And it's not like I have that much confidence in the Vikings to blow this team out. Though I do hate 5.5, always have. Not a great number. But I'll take the 5.5 with the Colts since they are 7-1 against the spread.
The Vikings get off to great starts, guys. And then the second half of these football games, they wind up trying to just hold on. They absolutely make you crazy if you bet on them. I am going to bet on the Colts. Jack, I love the 7-1 as well. I like Flacco bringing some stability. I like Anthony Richardson sitting his ass down because he's tired. Give him a couple more weeks and then cut it. All right. I like the Colts plus the 5.5.
All right. Monday Night Football now. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are traveling to Arrowhead to take on the Kansas City Chiefs. All the Kansas City Chiefs do is win football games. They haven't won since last year, or they haven't lost since last year. They're 7-0. They just keep winning. They haven't looked great. Mahomes' numbers are at times fairly pedestrian. But here we are, looking just straight down the barrel of the last undefeated team in the NFL, and who knows when they'll ever lose. They're 9.5-point favorites over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Nate, you and Jack probably don't take heart medicine, but John and I do because of our age. And if you're going to bet against Pat Mahomes, make sure you take your medicine. He will absolutely drive you crazy. Who is Baker Mayfield going to pass to? Who is going to catch the ball? Baker Mayfield is kind of a wild card. He's a gunslinger. He'll throw it to you, me, and both sides of the football. But 9.5 is a lot of points. Kansas City up until last week, I think, was 6-1 against the spread and didn't cover against the Raiders. I think that's a lot of points. We might have to do a little teasing this week, boys. I don't know.
Yeah, there we go. All right, the teaser king. John, you got anything? Or Jack?
I got some thoughts. So the under, I think, is the best play here for this game based on the injuries and the fact that the Chiefs, actually, those games have gone under 5 or 6 times this season, I believe. And part of that is just because their offense has not been cooking in the same way that it has in the past. So they might win. They might be 7-0, but they're not scoring a ton of points. So I'll take the under. That's number one. The second thing is, this is always my strategy when you get to the last team that's undefeated. and this is a stupid strategy. You shouldn't follow it, but it is fun. The Chiefs are not going to go undefeated, and the more they win, the more these money line numbers get screwy. So take the dog in every single game until the Chiefs lose one, because at some point you're gonna win money. Could be this week, Bucks plus 358. Could be next week. You could get lucky; it gets all the way up to plus 700, plus 800. The Chiefs will lose the game. They're not going undefeated. So this is the point in the season where I just start hammering the money line, whoever the Chiefs are playing, because at some point they're going to lose a game, and then I get to cash a big ticket.
All right, so that's our Saturday pick show. Those are all of our picks for this week. Good luck in your football betting. Go ahead and give us a follow on social media. Be sure and follow Godzilla Wins Big on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. We're trying to build things up. We're posting our best bet segment right after this show. We'll be recording it. We'll hit you with our quick picks for all of our favorite games over the weekend. We're also right after this show. If you're loving the vibes here, then you're going to love the vibes coming up next with Jay Delsing, Golf with Jay Delsing. What are you doing for the show today?
This week we have on a couple of guys created a golf show that got picked up by Amazon Prime. And it's a comedy. It's called Scramble, and they're going to be talking about how they pulled some dude off the street, and he's now dress him up like a golfer, and he's their D player, and it's a fun little look at this show that I have not seen yet on Prime.
All right, awesome. So that will be up next on our programming. So go ahead and give us follow us for best bets. I'll go ahead and tease it right now. I just think that Carolina stinks. And if I had to pick one game, just go ahead and bet the Saints. I think that's the best way to go. But as always, good luck today. Good luck in college football. That's going to be kicking off here in about an hour. Good luck in the NFL as well. And we will see you all next week with more picks.